The 9 Billion Names of God by Arthur C. Clarke is one of the most famous sci-fi short stories of all time. It's especially memorable for its final sentence. The whole thing is only a few pages long, but the ending hits harder than most novels. Clarke wrote it in the early 1950s, right when computers were giant, mysterious, room-sized machines that normal people barely understood. So of course he used one to end the universe. The story explores faith, technology, and what happens when you finish the thing you were supposedly created to do. In this video, I'll go over the plot, so it doesn't matter if you've read the story. Then, I'll share my thoughts on the themes and ideas. It stars in the least mystical place imaginable, a computer company office. A Tibetan Lama walks in and asks to buy an automatic sequence computer. Not for weather prediction, not for missile calculations, for listing the names of God. The engineers are confused, which is fair. The Lama explains that his monastery has spent centuries writing down every possible name of God using a special alphabet with strict rules about which letter combinations are allowed. At their current pace, finishing the list would take about 15,000 more years. With a Mark V computer, they can do it in 100 days. That's an insane sales pitch. Imagine walking into Apple and saying, "Hey, I need a MacBook. We're about 15,000 years behind schedule on finding God." And somehow that works, because the monastery has money and the company has a machine to sell. Faith is someone else's department. So 2 technicians, George Hanley and Chuck, get sent up to the monastery to install the computer. You're high in the mountains, surrounded by monks who have been doing this sacred project for generations. And then these 2 Western engineers show up with a giant early computer. The machine doesn't pray. It doesn't believe. It just permutes letters according to the rules and prints valid combinations. Day after day. Endless ribbons of possible divine names. The monks are completely calm, not anxious, not dramatic. They act like workers who are finally about to finish a very long job. Eventually, Chuck and George ask the obvious question. What happens when the list is done? The answer is simple. When every true name of God has been written down, humanity will have completed the purpose for which it was created. And then there will be no further reason for the universe to continue. In other words, the project ends, and so does everything else. Now, if you're an engineer in the 1950s, this is the part where you politely nod and then go outside to laugh. Chuck and George do not believe for a second that printing letter combinations is going to shut down reality. Get paid, run the machine, go home. Easy. But as the weeks pass, something starts to feel weird. Not supernatural weird. Social weird. The monks are so confident. Not cult leader confident. More like, accountant confident. Like the end of the universe is just a scheduled deliverable. 3 months. 90 days. 60. 30. The computer keeps printing, and the jokes get a little less funny every week. Near the end, they come up with a plan that is extremely human. Leave the monastery right before the project finishes. Walk down the mountain trail at night. Be nowhere near the building when the last names print. That way, if nothing happens, great. And if the monks get upset that God didn't show up on schedule, at least the engineers aren't standing there like customer support for the apocalypse. It's a coward's plan, and an excellent one. So, on the final night, they leave. The computer is still running behind them. 9 billion names, closing in on the last few. Chuck and George hike down under a clear Himalayan sky, talking about ordinary things, trying very hard to feel ordinary. Then Chuck looks up, and the stars are going out. Not exploding, not falling, just extinguishing, one by one, quietly, like someone finished reading a list and started turning off the lights. Clarke ends the story there. No angel, no speech from heaven, no rescue. Just two guys on a mountain path watching the sky go dark because a computer finished a sacred spreadsheet. Overhead, without any fuss, the stars were going out. That's the whole story. Short, calm, completely devastating. So what does this ending actually mean? The easy reading is, faith wins, science loses. The monks were right. The skeptics were wrong. And, okay, sure, that's on the surface. But I don't think that's the most interesting part. Notice what Clarke does. He doesn't make the computer fail. The technology works perfectly. The project succeeds. Which means this isn't really a story about superstition defeating science. It's a story about completion. We usually think of technology as something that helps us keep going. Faster travel, longer lives, more knowledge. Clarke flips that. Here, technology doesn't extend the project of existence. It finishes it early. The monks thought this would take thousands of years. The computer compresses sacred destiny into a fiscal quarter. Efficiency becomes apocalypse. Suddenly, the meaning of life has a progress bar. And when it hits 100%, the server rack of reality shuts down. Another reading is about the danger of wanting closure. The monks aren't villains. They're sincere. But they want the universe to be a task with an end state. Find all the names. Done. Lights out. And that desire shows up everywhere outside religion too. Finish the checklist. Map everything. Optimize every hour. As if reality is a to-do list and salvation is inbox 0. Maybe the horror isn't that the stars go out. Maybe the horror is that someone wanted them to. People compare this to Asimov's The Last Question. Both are short, cosmic computer stories. But the vibes are opposite. The Last Question ends with, "Let there be light." This one ends with the lights going out. One is creation. The other is completion. Personally, I find it unsettling for a modern reason. We live in the golden age of we can automate that. AI writes. AI draws. AI talks. We're compressing forever jobs into minutes. Which is amazing until you ask Clarke's question. What if some of those forever things were load-bearing? What if the slowness was part of the point? I'm not saying ChatGPT is going to turn off the stars. Relax. But there is something spiritually weird about treating every mystery like a job for a faster machine. The monks outsource wonder to a Mark V. We outsource thinking to whatever model is trending this month. Different century. Same instinct. So here's where I land. This isn't just a twist about monks being right. It's a warning about what happens when efficiency meets destiny. When you give a sacred infinite task to a finite machine that doesn't care. When you want the list so badly that you forget you might need the stars more than the last name on the page. If you could finish the ultimate purpose of existence tomorrow, would you? Or would you slow the machine down, leave a few names unprinted, and keep a little darkness unexplored, just so there's still something left to look up at? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.